Welcome back, everybody, and Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Black and Healthy podcast. We are now in the year of 2024, which is insane and amazing all at the same time. This is a time for new opportunities, for you to make another and a better decision and choice for your life. And I'm excited about today's guest, who I will introduce to you very shortly. But I am Jasmine Gillum, your host and the owner of Black and Healthy. Welcome if you are a new listener or viewer. And if you are returning, thank you so much for supporting this production. I hope you've enjoyed it up until this point. This is the Black and Healthy podcast, where we talk with professionals that focus on health and wellness in the upstate of majority Black-owned businesses or individuals that work with the community of our people. If you would like to sponsor the Black and Healthy podcast, make sure that you email me at blackandhealthy@gmail.com. Make sure you also subscribe to this podcast. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Black and Healthy. And then, of course, our website. Check us out and subscribe to our newsletter at www.blackandhealthy.com. So without further ado, like I said, this is a time of new beginnings, opportunities, another day, if you will, to do something different with your life and, of course, to improve it. And why not start with your finances? Because
Absolutely.
everybody knows that you got to have the money. You got to have the fold to get to certain places that you want to. Some people say that money does not make you happy, but I would totally disagree with that because it makes me happy. And I'm going to put myself out there that I am a spender. So I know that with the things that I want to do in this year to come, that I have to do better with managing my finances. So that's where we're now going to get into who we have today, who is Cheryl. And she is going to introduce herself, tell you where she's from, and what she does.
Hi. Well, thank you so much for that warm welcome, Jasmine. I'm so glad. Happy New Year to everyone. I am Cheryl Meeks. I am a financial inclusion leader with Truist Bank, formerly Financial Wellness. So that's where their wellness piece comes in. And I've been with Truist for 12 years now.
Yeah.
So a little bit about me. I'm a native from North Carolina, representing those 49ers at UNC Charlotte. That's my alma mater. So I have been in the upstate area for a little over a year now, and it's a welcome back because I have spent a short stint here before. As a financial wellness leader, I have the benefit of being able to go out everywhere in the community, to nonprofits, for-profits, places of worship, schools, universities, everywhere, and just talk about financial well-being. Because we all have goals, and oftentimes those goals have a financial aspect to it. So I really enjoy being able to do that. And so a big part of what I do is the financial literacy. I discuss topics such as banking basics, saving for crisis, home ownership, which is huge right now.
Yeah.
And several business topics, from business banking basics, separating personal and business finance, building business credit. So those topics, they're just very well needed, especially in our community, because we just don't know. And sometimes we don't know where to start or who to ask. So that's a little bit about what I do.
So that was a lot, and I'm super excited because I would say for a lot of families, especially Black families, there are certain financial topics that we've missed or have never known. I would say at like my age as a millennial, there are still things that I don't know to this day that I am wanting to learn, that I'm working on learning.
Right.
And also knowing that the changes that I make today can make a difference for someone that may come across me in my life, whether that's me having a family, a husband one day, maybe, Lord, we will see. But not just that, like for me, like my business,
Right.
and the legacy that I would like that to carry one day. So I think, so for me, when it comes to finances, where I began was, it was like 15 or 16 when I got my first debit card, right?
Okay.
Cool. And then I didn't get a credit card till I was like 20, 21, maybe. I just knew, like, I'm a type of person, like, I can spend some money.
Okay. Really?
I can spend some money. You give me a lot of money, I know how to spend it. I know where to go. I know what to do with it. But and then I also am somebody that doesn't like to spend money like at the same time. It's kind of, I know that's complicated.
Weird paradox there. Yeah.
Right.
I
It's kind of
understand.
one of those like, but do I really need that? Like, do I need to spend the money on that? Sometimes it depends on what it is.
Yeah, we all go through those different phases where we probably spend more and save less and vice versa. I mean,
Correct.
just coming through Christmas, I tell you, I got tired of the boxes coming to my house.
Right.
I was like, every day I was going to the door, it was something new, and I found myself spending more. And I'm typically not that person. I'm more of a saver. I've been doing financial services for quite some time, so having resources for the emergency is very important to me. But I just want to touch base on something that you had mentioned. When you think about your upbringing,
Yep.
when I was a child, my mom never really discussed finances with me. And I'm sure that some of your followers will probably resonate with your parents thought that children should stay in a child's place, and they didn't talk to them about what it took to run a household.
Yep.
And then you become a grown up and you're trying to figure it out for yourself because we didn't have those conversations. And to be able to be in a position to share knowledge, things that weren't discussed, and maybe our parents may not have felt comfortable because they didn't know it all,
Right.
or maybe they were just trying to do the best that they could to get
Correct.
by, and they were embarrassed by it for whatever the reasons that we didn't get all of that growing up. We want to break that cycle. We want to talk about the basic things. And sometimes in a group setting, if I'm just delivering it, it's perfect. But then you have my contact information and you can call and ask direct questions, because it can sometimes feel a little embarrassing and maybe even overwhelming depending on what the topic is. But I just remember my mom never shared, this is how much money I make. This is how much it costs to run this household. She just did the best that she could. And honestly, I think most of us are just doing the best that we can.
Correct.
But what if we could do better? And so just having the knowledge, the resources, and today it's easier to gather that information. So I think it's so important and key.
Yeah. I would also add, so like to add to that, I think with my parents, like, I think they are their generation from their family is where they had more of a grasp of finances, if you will, of like having a bank account and stuff like that. Like they were the kids helping their parents get a bank account. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing I do know that I was taught, especially from both of my parents, was like how to write a check. And I don't think today's generation knows how to write a check.
No.
So I feel grateful to kind of like be in the in-between of like the check and the debit card era,
Right.
Versus being like on the end of just the debit card era.
Right.
But I do also know that like there's so much more to finances. So I would like to touch on that a little bit when you're saying like the basics, right? When you talk about this emergency savings, tried it, did it,
Well,
and they're
life
gone.
happens. Life happens. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I've lived long enough to have gone through several different phases in my life where went through a phase of, to use this terminology, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Went through that phase. And we just, every day, I hope that the people that I talk to and the people that I meet give themselves grace.
Yeah.
Because life is already beating you up. Don't beat yourself up because you made a bad decision. It's about trying over and trying again. So I talk to people about budgeting, and I know it's not sexy and all that to talk about, but budgeting is so key as a foundation to help better yourself financially, I would say.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about those times where I did have an emergency savings. So here's the thing. I say you have an emergency savings, but guess what? An emergency happened, so it's gone.
Right.
I mean, you spent the money. But
Correct.
now the emergency wasn't the shoe sale, okay?
Right.
The shoe sale was not the emergency, but we thought that it was. I'll tell you a little bit about how I could see my finances. So, of course, I have a couple of checking accounts. I believe I always have someone as secondary on the account in case something were to happen to you. I have savings accounts, and I have a purpose for those accounts. I enjoy travel, and I have an account that I use to put money per pay period in that account towards those expenses. I have the emergency savings, and I even have a savings for my arrangements, my final arrangements. If when I die, not if, because it's going to happen to all of us, right? So it's about planning, and but yeah, and when I think about when I was raised, when you were saying, as time has changed, the information that was shared, our generation. My mom, she was a laborer. She was a certified nurse's assistant. My grandmother, my paternal grandmother, was an educator. So she was the one who shared a little more about that. As we think about the level of education as years have gone, we're finding more and more, especially in our community, African Americans, that have had the benefit of going to college. But my grandmother said that, and her words of wisdom was always, you always pay back what you owe because you have your name. I'm trying to think exactly what she said, but if she borrowed money, and we often had to do that, you paid it back. And that was one of the things with credit that I knew, that if I borrowed something, that I made sure that I could pay it back. Yeah. But we don't think about that. We think sometimes, or we have, that I got this credit card. Oh, yeah, I'm going to floss. I'm going on a trip. I'm going to, what do we do these days? Live it up. I don't know what the terminology is. I'm gonna date myself.
I don't know what all it. Yeah, we got soft girl era. We got we used to be YOLO. I'm telling my age now.
Okay. Well, it's a hot girl era too.
We
right?
got hot girl. We got all of it. You know,
and we want to live it up. We want to have a good time. But we have to plan for that.
Right.
So it's so key when you talk about having your finances, think about what your goals are. When I share, I enjoy traveling, I do. There's a time and place for it. So I have to save. I know the bigger trips are something I'm going to have to save a little longer for. And just planning things out. So when you think about what your priorities are, what is important to you, what your life events are. I don't have any young kids. For those that have little kids, you want to plan for their education, or plan for a school trip. You got to pay for everything. You come home and the kids are always asking for money to do X, Y, Z. So everyone's in a different phase in their life, so their priorities are different. And oftentimes you got to align your finances towards those priorities.
Yeah. So let's back up.
Okay.
How did you get in the line of work that you do?
Interestingly enough, I mentioned that I'm from North Carolina, so I went to UNC Charlotte. And I have a BA in psychology, so nothing financially related. I do remember taking the Myers-Briggs, which is a personality quiz, and it said that I like banking. And I didn't think anything of it. But fast forward a couple of years and doing a couple of things. I remember it was in 1995, a friend of mine, I was living in Charlotte at the time, she said, hey, First Union is hiring for this call center. And so it was shift work, which I really did enjoy at the time. And you weren't client facing, and it just had the schedules were interesting, and the pay wasn't bad. I'm going to share this with you because it dates. It was $10 an hour. That was good at that time, right? $10 an hour was pretty good. But that's how I ended up in banking with First Union at the call center. And from there, training, and went over to what we call the retail side, into the branches in a leadership role. And here we are 28 years later, right. And I'm still doing it, and I still enjoy it. And I tell you, what I really enjoy is just helping people. I have a heart for people. And I know that historically our community has struggled financially. So being able to share and help people put plans together or get themselves on a better footing financially really does bring me joy.
That's awesome. And so, yeah, when it comes to our community, I think it's one, there are people in our community that we become discouraged because there's things that we don't know. But when you see somebody that looks like you in that world, in the banking world, it's like, oh,
yeah,
maybe that person can help me.
Yes.
because they get it. They understand what may be a fear that someone may have, which is someone looking at them as though, like, you don't know what this is, or the rejection piece of it, right? I would say, like, here in the upstate, or in Spartanburg specifically, is you have business owners, right? And they want to succeed when it comes to their businesses. But if you hear certain things of, like, loans and other things where it's not a grant, essentially,
right,
that's where a barrier begins for a lot of people, the access of that
to capital.
Yeah. And so it helps when you can talk to somebody that looks like you, to kind of, hopefully will help bridge that gap for them to understand, to learn something different. And then will either inspire them to take that next step forward, or to review, like, okay, this is where I am right now. And think about, like, what do I have to work on now to get to where I need to be qualified to receive funds, if you will, if they decide to go that route with banks and things like that. Because that makes a difference for other people that they know.
Absolutely.
Call that the domino effect, if you will, where it's just like, you see one person, they were able to get by, that inspires another person, where they can have those more intimate conversations in an environment where they're comfortable to talk about these things. And then the next person comes along, then the next person comes along. So I think it's very important of what you're doing, more than a lot of people realize, I would say, for sure, because it does make a difference.
I think it may be hard sometimes to be vulnerable with people that don't look like you, because we have been rejected. We've been made to feel ashamed that we don't already know that. What is really encouraging is that, especially a lot of young people who want to have their own businesses, they just don't know where to start. So being able to be a resource, this is what you need to do, the steps you need to take. And since I've been in Spartanburg, I will say that I'm really encouraged with what's out there for business owners, especially at this time, because if you're familiar with the chamber, there are low interest loans and grants that have been given to minority business owners. To see in this time that there's money being put behind business owners for our demographic to not only sustain but also thrive. And when you start going to different conferences, Truist just participated in the Hope Global Hope Forum, and we know, and I'm switching gears, so please
let's
bear
go.
with me.
Go ahead.
That when you look at minorities across the board, home ownership, African Americans are the lowest on the ranking amongst all the minorities. And below Hispanics, and those are our brown brothers and sisters. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying we've had resources, we've had access. Where's the gap? So it's going back to your brother or sister and saying, hey, this is what I did, how to do it, and not so much the crabs in a barrel mentality where we can't help if that person does. We can't reach back and help someone else. Right. It's enough to be made all the way around, and for us all to thrive, right, and to have legacy. So it's so important to me when I think about my family. When my mom passed away, there was no money to have been left, unfortunately, and I want to be able to do something for the next generation. We think of those that don't look like us. We talk about transferring wealth. When you can get to the place where you send your child off to college, they don't have to worry about student loan debt. When they graduate, they can have one of your houses to live in. That's elevating them to the next level where they don't have to struggle. I'd love to see more of us get to that place. And it's not only having the foundation of knowing what to do with my money, how to set up a plan. It may also be a paradigm shift of how we spend our money. Now, don't get me wrong. Look, I enjoy the nice things in life, but I can't enjoy it all. Right. So that's enough of me preaching.
Let's go into that, because you said a trigger word for me, student loans.
Yeah.
So I have this big thing out for these student loans, because when you talk about paying them back, I'm like,
waiting for buying.
You gonna get that money when you get that money.
Right. So you know what? I've heard people say, I'm gonna die with student loan debt. I've heard that. Yeah.
See, and that's one thing about me. So that's what I've spoken from my legacy, from my life, is if God blesses me to have children, we are not uttering student or loans in my household, because it's just not going to happen.
Okay.
I am a second generation college student in my family. My mom is the first. And so for her, she had her loans, but it just wasn't as great as they have grown over time.
Right.
And so our family has been learning what it means to actually be in this student loan realm of craziness.
Right.
And I'm like, this will never happen again. Like, this ends with me.
Right.
Even if it comes to my siblings' children, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But if there's a way where they don't have to have student loans, best believe Auntie is going to find a way to where they don't have to deal with it, because it's just,
you're laden down with debt as soon as you graduate. And you're trying to come upon your own. I think families could, if they have not been able to prepare or individually, that come together holistically. Auntie, uncle, it's time to send little Mike to college. Let's put something together in a trust for him so that he can get the education. And there are certain cultures and communities that they live together before and they all stay there until they can buy another house, and then they move on. So it's more of a community. It takes some adjusting. I know people, Mike 18, it's time for him to get out my house.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now Mike has to figure out, how do I pay rent somewhere? I'm barely making minimum wage because mom wants me out. And every family's different, but if we could learn to not only share our resources when we talk about the knowledge and the skills, but share our resources. And I'm going to be transparent right now. I have one at my house too. No, let me just tell you, it could be difficult at times to say, okay, it's time for him to find another place. But I don't want him to struggle. I want him to prepare for that.
Right.
So that he can be in a better position for his that comes along. So
I think that's very important. I mean, in all honesty, like, I've seen many cultures where their families are supporting
Yeah.
each other,
Right.
whether if it's an elder person, the parents that are now staying with the children.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Or if it's someone that they're from another country and they're just now coming into the country,
Right.
that people are taking them in so that they can get their foundation going.
Exactly.
And so I think sometimes with our people, it's just we've had to work and work and work and work where you just tired.
You're tired.
And so it can kind of be a struggle sometimes. And I hope that one day, if people are not there yet, but that one day that there's more of a village mentality again, that kind of it develops. I'm not saying it has to be exactly the same way that it used to be, but at least it grows to that, and it is according to the times of whatever that community is needing at that time to support each other.
Taking care of our own.
Yeah.
It's really about taking care of our own. And we don't have to have the same last name.
That's right.
With this community, we want to better the lives of our children. And it's sad. I mean, of course, I know this country was built on our backs, on our ancestors' backs. I get it, but we've been here, and for other minorities to come and thrive here beyond what we're currently doing, and we've overcome a lot. I mean, we see more people like us who are in politics, who are celebrities, who are musicians, artists who have access to money, hiring people that look like us, supporting, sharing the knowledge of how to, if you're getting into investing or what have you. But definitely more of a community aspect that I don't have to keep all the information to myself. Let me, drop a nugget and share with someone else so that they can better their lives and the lives of those that come behind them. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I know it's all twisted, but it's just interesting because I know that there are people who would love to be in a better situation, but unfortunately just didn't have access to that knowledge. People didn't talk about it. And now that I know a little more than I did when I was 20, I can share that with someone else. And I did. My children, when they first, I encouraged them to get their jobs when they were 15, 16, when they were able to work. We opened up a checking account, and of course I remember my oldest son wanted to buy his tennis shoes. Like every time you can buy tennis shoes or sneakers, whatever you want to call them, but we're going to put some in a savings account. You're not going to spend every dime that you get. And also for those that do have young children and have established some credit, add them as authorized users. I did that with all of my children so that when they were ready and needed to, that they did have credit, they had established credit. There are certain things, I'm not an advocate of debt or building debt, but there are times when you're going to have to get debt, or if you haven't saved, you got to get a car to get to work maybe, and you haven't saved enough to pay cash, or you're ready to buy your first home because you're tired of paying an increased rent every year. Then you probably don't have $200,000 or $300,000 to go purchase a home in cash. So there are times when you're going to need your credit, and having a good credit foundation is important. So I wanted to do that and was fortunate to be able to do that for my children. So I encourage those that, when you think about your kids, maybe and your credit is decent. Now, don't get the light bill in.
Look,
and little Annie's
I've
name.
seen it.
Yeah, we've seen all that before.
Don't do it.
When she graduates, she's like, "Oh, I got this debt." No, let's not do that to our children. Please, let's not do that to our children. But let's help them, so that they can help those that come behind them.
That's right, because it could just be one thing that makes such a difference for the next person and then for the next person. So tell me, what do you enjoy most about what you do?
Well, as I shared, I really enjoy helping people. I have a heart for people, my personal passion. When I was in Atlanta, I had a food ministry. So I just know that sometimes we definitely can't help the families we were born into, or the homes that we were raised in. So if I can share a little bit with someone from what I know that could better position them. I see young people all the time, and unfortunately, if they could come from a home that maybe their parents are renting and they're ready to do better, but they just don't know where to start. And I've been in this community at different schools and universities, and they're talking to me about, I got this student loan debt. What do I do? I'm about to graduate. So I really enjoy offering something to make their lives just a little bit better. And that's part of our passion, part of our purpose here at Truist is to inspire and build better lives and communities. And it definitely aligns with my personal purpose.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So let's start, because I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but you gave the different variances, right? Of like, if you are a parent, if you're in your 20s, if you're 15, you're 16. So let's start from if you're 15 and 16 and you about to get a job or you just got a job and you want to save that money.
Right.
Where do you advise a 15 and up student to begin when it comes to their money? So like opening a bank account, or what do you suggest?
Definitely recommend a checking or savings account for the young people. You can't get it on your own, unfortunately. I mean, depending on where you're working, if they may offer a pay access card or something like that. So hopefully, if it's not your parent, but someone who is of majority age, and someone that you trust, to go to a bank and get an account established. Now, I do believe you should pay yourself. So maybe take 10% of that for you. Put it aside for you to do something for yourself. We would hate to just continue to work and not see the fruits of your labor. So it's important to do something for yourself, but understand that you have a goal in mind. Maybe if you're 15 or 16 and you're riding a bicycle, maybe one day you want to own a car. So you'll set a plan in place, SMART goals. Make sure your goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. SMART. So set a goal for what you want your money to do. And you could be 15 or 16 and say, I'm saving this for retirement. Or maybe you're saving it for, I'm going to the beach this summer, or what have you. So set a goal for your money, but definitely recommend putting it in an account, because it's not a safe home under the mattress. And it's easier to track how you spend if it's in an account, even if you have a debit card or if you had to go get the cash directly. Definitely recommend that when you start working. And if you get paid in cash, if you're babysitting or what have you, take it to the bank and deposit it. Don't keep cash around, because you can lose it. I know I've done that before. And so keep it in an account where you can manage it a lot easier. And I know I'm an employee of Truist, so and this isn't about Truist, but I will say we are very strong reputation, great bank to come. And if you need some personal advice, I'll definitely leave my contact information. You can reach out to me. I'll be glad to share and direct you to where you may need to go.
All right, perfect. All right, so for my 15 and 16-year-olds, you heard it first. Next, let's amp it up a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to college.
Yes.
Our college students that are leaving a parent or guardian, and you may be used to that adult handling your finances. What would you suggest for someone going into college, starting with them, and someone before they get out of college? So they're like, we'll say a junior, going into senior. By the time you get to your senior year, it's like you got to focus on your finals. So what do you suggest for that group of
the
people?
The college students, definitely, when you're in college or when you starting college, you definitely want to have a checking account, because you're going to need mom or dad to zell you some money for some pizza occasionally when you have those finals. But those years are the time when you want to start thinking about establishing a credit foundation. Again, cash is king. It means a lot, but you will need credit at some point. I don't know too many people who haven't had at some point had to go and utilize credit or try to. Be a good steward of your credit. And you could start as entering college. If you've never had credit and you're trying to establish it, there are tools such as a secured credit card that you can establish. Now, being secured means that you've put money in a savings account that you're using as collateral to say, hey, if I default and don't pay you back, the money is already in a savings account that you can get. You don't want that, right? You want to pay your bills and establish a credit foundation. If your parents haven't been good stewards of their credit, find out if auntie or grandpa or someone else that you trust has, and maybe they can just add you as an authorized user to a card to then get your credit foundation going. And then when you're ready to apply for a card, you can. As a student, if it's not all loans, not loans, but grant money, you may have some loans that you're having to pay back. So pay the minimum. I'm sure there's a deferment plan. And I hope that you don't have any student loans. I really do. But if you do, make sure that you're paying your debt back based on the guidelines that have been set for that particular debt. That's my advice for the students. Get the credit foundation, because eventually and hopefully you may want to one day own your own home. So you'll have that in place.
So I want to add this because I know this life very well.
Okay.
Refund checks.
Okay.
If you're getting refund checks, it may be nice now, but please know that you will have to pay that back after school. So every little item of clothing that you're buying to go to these parties or to, stunt on the yard, wherever it may be, please know that you're going to have to pay it back.
Right.
So keep that in mind. If you are spending $1,000, you're going to be repaying $1,000 back eventually, okay?
Right.
So I know the life. I get it. I know some people use refund checks to like pay your rent if you're living in an apartment instead of like you living on campus and that sort of thing. And that's cool as long as you have a plan where you have also been saving to pay that back. It's up to you on how much time you're going to take to pay it back, because there's also this thing called interest.
Right.
Let me just add not great.
That. I know of someone who stayed in college, continued to enroll in classes for the check. Okay. So try not to get more than what you need. Of course, like you brought up a great point. Some people need the money for off-campus housing and what have you. Try not to get more than what you need on the loans. Take all the grant money, but on the loans, try to limit that. And prayerfully, one day we won't have lending, and secondary education will be free to all. But some people were hoping Biden could have raised it, but I'll just say, try not. You're still holding out. We still keep hope alive. My daughter's one of them. She doesn't have a lot of student loan debt, but she had some. It's like, she was hoping that it get erased.
Yeah.
The verdict's still out.
Right.
But so try not to get too much. Get what you need, and as Jasmine, as you were saying, have a plan in place. If you're getting it and you don't need it, put it to the side. Right. So that you can have something to pay it back, pay it off, because it will come due.
Right. And you can send that money back. You will get the check, right?
Yeah, okay.
Take what you need. But you can take that money, the rest of it, and put it back.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have to use it.
Right.
So please be aware of that. Okay, so moving on.
Okay.
For the person that is or would like to have children, in preparation of that, how would you, I done skipped over the couple, but we'll go back to y'all. The person that's expecting a child, or the couple that's expecting a child is what I should say. How would you recommend, or what would you recommend them to begin preparing for their child to have a legacy?
I recommend putting the oxygen mask on yourself first before the child. And we've been talking about making sure that we have money for our kids for college, but there will be a day that you get older, that you may not be able to work, and you need to prepare for yourself. So I am a big advocate as soon as you get that job. If you're working for a company that has a 401k, because oftentimes they will match, that you start your savings there. And you want to fund it. And what you can do once you budget and you have what you need to go into that plan, then maybe you consider a 549 for your children. But make sure that you prepare for yourself first. That's what I believe. Because the sooner you get started, the better. It is amazing the difference in savings when you start earlier, as opposed to midway through the race, start savings. You can't catch up. So start with that. And definitely a small savings account. You know, when my nephew was little, instead of, he always got toys and his parents were always buying him things, I would buy him savings bonds for his birthday. And of course they have a maturity on it, and he had the money to put in a savings account or use however. He didn't need 10 trucks or what have you. So we love showering and doting on our children and getting them things, but thinking about what they could really use that will make a bigger impact down the road. So if you have a child, and maybe if you wanted, I'm sure you'll get the Social Security number. That's what you'll need for the savings account. Get a small savings account, a custodial savings account set up. Grandparents can contribute to it. Anybody, instead of going overboard on stuff that they won't pick up a week later, like a toy, go ahead and have them put money in an account for later.
All right, so I got another part then to the parent thing.
Okay.
What if this is a new single parent? So they were in a combined household, right? And then you have a parent that may not have prepared financially.
Right.
What would you suggest for that parent of, like, if it's a plan where they are wanting to part from the parent or they didn't have a choice and something happened to the other parent unexpectedly, what would you suggest for that parent to begin saving?
So what is so key is budgeting. You have to start there. And it's even more important, I think, if you're having one income and you don't have, I won't say the fluff, but the access to other cash, you definitely need to know where every dime is going when it's just you and you have more responsibility that you're solely carrying. So if you find yourself in that situation, budgeting is where I'll recommend that you start. Look at how much you have. And the thing about budgeting, it's not a one and done thing. Okay. Our lives change, our income changes, our responsibilities change. So I just, true story, my insurance is billed biannually. And so I look and I have it tied to one of my cards. And I was like, oh, what's this charge? Oh, yeah, here's the insurance. So certain things are going to come at an irregular time. I know when I get my monthly, I know what my mortgage is, my monthly utilities, that's my opportunity to pay. But I sort of forgot about the auto insurance. Similar with the trash, unless you're in the city and may be covered, I'm not. So that comes out every 3 months. So you'll have, your liabilities will have different pay schedules. When you budget, you can build that out and know what you need to cover and plan by putting so much towards later for the future, for the savings. And then have your goals in place to where you want to be. So I know it's tough for a lot of single parents, and you may depend on maybe child support or resources from someone else, but it may not be guaranteed. So I think budgeting is the place to start, especially if it's just you solely.
All right, so we're gonna back up because
Okay.
I skipped a few people.
Okay.
I skipped the person that's just getting out of college,
Okay.
who may have to move for a job. Their parent might allow them to move back home with them.
Yeah,
So
hopefully.
if that's the case, if they are someone that was able to move back home with their parent, what would you suggest to them as far as saving their money to eventually get out of the house?
Right. So I say you can't live anywhere for free. I'm saying that as a mom, like you need to contribute somewhere, because not only does that help your parent, and it creates a likelihood that they're not going to try to push you out sooner because you're paying, but it teaches you some accountability that you now have a responsibility because you're contributing towards the household. Definitely saving. So if you can go back home, go back home. But if you can't go back home and you have to go out, off on your own, keep this in mind. You got to crawl before you walk and before you run. Don't go out there. Yes, it may be nice to live at the Fitzgerald because that's the nice new place, okay? But you may not be able to live there. And maybe you'll choose a different lifestyle. Maybe you'll have to have a roommate initially so that you can save if you prefer to live independently. I do, but I'm just saying, think about what's most important to you. And if it's not being in debt, sit down with someone that you trust, come up with a plan, and then put that into action.
I would add to that. If you do end up getting a roommate, please make sure it's a reliable roommate.
Right.
I don't care if you've known that person since you were 10 years old. If you know that they're not a reliable person, especially when it comes to finances, do not live with that person.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a bind to where you thinking you're paying half of rent, and then that unreliable friend all of a sudden is dipped, and now you're paying all of the rent, which is completely created chaos in your finances. So keep that in mind.
Sounds like you have some experience.
No.
You know about that?
No, I've seen it. I
Okay.
refuse to put myself in that situation.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely not. I learn from watching other people.
Right. And that's smart,
yeah.
too. You learn from others' mistakes, right?
Yeah. So, okay, moving forward, we're going to do two more.
Okay.
Because I think, these are great scenarios, I think. And hopefully we are appealing to the demographic and this is helpful for you. What about the new home buyer? Where do you suggest that they begin? This could be me. So give me some tips, and the people that are looking to buy a home eventually, where should we begin?
I say come to one of my sessions on becoming a home buyer. Actually, I think we say that becoming a homeowner is the American dream, right? There's a lot to that dream that we may not know. So your credit has to be straight. You just mentioned you're ready. You have to have some money saved up for down payment. And even if you get down payment assistance, which is out there, you never know what's going to happen. So when you're renting your apartment, if something happens with the plumbing, you call the office and someone comes out and fix it. Well, there's nobody to call but the plumber and the bill to come after that if you're a homeowner. So you need to have a plan in place, whether it's some type of service package or a savings account to cover the unexpected costs, because there will be. And I'm just saying, if you had a new home, you're doing better, hopefully, because that stuff is under warranty for at least for 1 year. But if you're buying an existing home, you don't know what kind of problems that you're buying. Home ownership is great. There are a lot of benefits, because the downside of renting is the chances of your rent going up every year is strong. And sometimes you can save by buying a house because you get a fixed rate, it's not going to increase, but now you're also building equity, something that, has value to it. And I like using this example with my son, who's a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And so he bought his house. It's been 3 years ago. The rates were great. They're not horrible. They've been better, but the rates were great at that time. So he has a 3-bedroom home with a garage, and his mortgage was $900.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get an apartment for that in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
And he's building equity after a few months because they were still building in his neighborhood. He already had $10,000 in equity, and it continues to go. And guess what? He didn't have to he put a down payment, and they cut him a check at closing. So he put $0 into the game. Got a 2.25% interest rate. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I share with him, don't ever sell. Stay there. And he's leasing it out now as an investment property. But when you're able to do that and buy something that's affordable let me tell you, when you do decide to buy a house, your lender will probably tell you, oh, you qualify for this amount.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking to myself, how in the world? I do qualify. Let me get it. Don't be house poor. Don't have to work so much that you can't even enjoy your home because you're worried about making a mortgage payment.
Right.
Start small. You can always build equity in that house and buy another house down the road. So you may not have your dream home the first time out. I know I didn't, but I had something I could call my own. So I hope I answered your question.
Oh, yeah.
I went down
That was great.
a rabbit hole. Okay.
Definitely need it. And then since we're kind of here, this is a quick one. What would you suggest how much people should save in the emergency fund? Because I know there's one big influencer, and I'm not going to say his name, that I came across when I first got out of college. But how much would you suggest?
Well, what we know is that most Americans don't even have $2,000 in a savings account. So if you wanted to set that as a goal, but having standard, they say 6 months of your expenses in a savings account. So when you get that, if you can get 200 and then get 200 more, so start where you stand. Sometimes having very lofty goals can become discouraging because how am I going to do that?
Right.
If you can save $5 a week, and we probably can, I know I can. I eat out way too much. When I talk about money, I said, okay, I could sit at home, cook, and have 2 meals off that. Or if you're eating out, if you don't like to cook, take that meal and divide it into 2. And so you can have 2 meals for the price of 1. So there are ways that you can cut costs. But I'll just go down one place to the other one. But so what were you talking?
You said, well, you started with, you said with your save up 6 months worth.
Save up 6 months of your expenses if you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So your situation may be different than mine.
Right.
I'm paying a mortgage. You may be paying rent or vice versa.
Yeah.
And so you may have to save a little more, but that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Okay. And then
sorry about that, guys.
somebody received that message.
All right.
And then last one, because we can't forget about these people because you never know. You just never know. Someone may be older who never saved.
Right.
That's just been living from paycheck to paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would you... This is a two-parter, actually.
Okay.
Again, I'm sorry. I thought about somebody else. What would you suggest for the older person that they've never saved before, but they're more established though?
Right.
And when I say established, like they've been working somewhere, which you would think that they would have maybe like a savings, but that's not always the case because life happens, right?
Happens.
So and you got to start over because age is nothing but a number.
Right.
So.
That's right. Age is nothing but a number. And people's mentality, people always grow, they change, they shrink, they expand. Start where you stand. It's never too late to start saving. It's never too late to have a goal or a dream, a desire to do something. You could be 80 years old and want to get your BA. And it's never too late if that's what you want to do. So I think when you talk about health, one of the biggest impacts on our health is our finances.
That's right.
People are stressed out about finances.
That's right.
You can add years on your life if you just have a plan in place.
Yep.
And you definitely have to have a little bit of dedication behind that. But guess what? When I say you fall off the bandwagon, you heard me tell you I had some packages come to my house for Christmas at Christmas time. So I'm back on the wagon now and towards saving, because that's important to me. I've been stressed. I don't want to add that to it. We got enough stress in our lives now. Turn on the news, something's going to stress you out. Finances is definitely something that is controllable, in your control, and something that you can, put a plan in place to alleviate that type of stress.
Yeah. So, and then one more group, and I promise this is it. What about the empty nesters? The ones that they've done nothing but work.
I say celebrate.
And they want to start traveling and using their funds a little bit, but they, you have those people that just all they know is to save, all they know is to budget, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but again, at the same time, you also deserve to get out of your comfort zone and to live a little bit.
Right. For those, let me tell you, I don't know about you. I don't know my expiration date. I don't know when I'm gonna die. So I believe that we should always live our lives from day one and put some fun in it. I really admire my daughter, who is, she's turned 26, and she just traveled. And she's made that a priority through college, before college when her parents was footing the bill. Now she is. And wherever your passion is, that just happens to be hers, you can still enjoy life. You don't have to wait. You're going to wait till you retire. Guess what? You may not feel up to, you may not have the health to travel. So enjoy life. When I say do something for yourself, put 10% if you can. I mean, definitely I believe in charity and supporting your church. Give brings you joy too when you're giving and doing something for someone other than yourself. But if you can, put 10% to yourself, however that looks. So if it's, I enjoy eating out and I'm only able to put $10 this week, eventually you're going to save up enough so you can get that really nice meal that you want. And you feel like you're doing something for yourself. So I hope nobody's just waiting to retirement to enjoy their life. But you mentioned empty nesters, so they may still be working. Right? They still kids are out the house, but they're still working. Enjoy yourself. No day is guaranteed.
And enjoy yourself, because that's what I'm doing. Again,
right.
like I said, student loans, y'all gonna get your money when y'all get it. But I'm in my early 30s, and I don't got no kids or no husband, so
you're gonna enjoy.
I'm enjoying my life because I understand, like, you talk about travel and stuff. Like, people like to invest in traveling. I'm someone that likes to invest in music, like concerts.
The experiences.
Yeah. And you don't know when that artist is going to come back or, if they're ever going to do a concert again, because they may be like a really older person. I like older R&B music.
Okay.
So for me, it's like, I got to take advantage of this.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's kind of like
whatever your passion is, wherever that lies. And I say enjoy, and because no day is guaranteed. You like experiences. So my daughter loved Beyonce. She done seen her twice. I'm like, she doesn't need my money, so I ain't going to see it. But I did go see the movie. Yeah. Did you go see the movie?
I have not seen it yet.
Yeah, the movie was good.
I have not seen it yet.
I felt like I had the concert experience.
Oh, no.
Probably better because I don't want to kill it for anybody, but you can see the costume changes based on the cities that she's been in. So you got to see a little bit of everywhere she was. Yeah. But anyway, whatever your goal is, my passion may be travel. There are people that love being in Spartanburg, don't want to go anywhere else, but maybe they enjoy eating out. Whatever brings you passion, wherever brings you joy, put a goal in place and some money behind it.
I know that's right. I'm gonna start. I have an intention to to start taking myself out on like really nice dates.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already started thinking and creating my list of like where I want to take myself. So
Okay.
I'm excited about it.
And you can take me too if you like.
But yeah, so thank you so much, Cheryl, for being on the Black and Healthy podcast
Oh,
today.
you're welcome. I enjoyed it.
It was a pleasure, and I really hope that somebody is inspired to take another step forward into doing something different, especially when it comes to your finances, because finances play a major part in one's life. Where you just breathe better. You just breathe different when you know where your money is and where it's going and who it's going to, and you have control of your money. So again, as I always mention in the podcast, if you get overwhelmed, make sure that you take a pause, take some notes, get your favorite snack, and or beverage, and enjoy. Just take as many notes as you would like, and we'll be here when you're ready to return if you haven't got through the whole episode yet. But if you would like to connect with Cheryl, please let them know how they can do so.
Yes, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email at cheryl.meeks@truist.com. That's CHERYL.M as in Mary, EEKS at truist.com. You can also reach me at LinkedIn if you would like. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome sauce. And again, thank you so much for being a part of the Black and Healthy podcast today, for listening. If you would like to sponsor the podcast, make sure that you reach out to me at blackandhealthy@gmail.com. Make sure that you subscribe to this podcast as well as our YouTube channel. Connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Black and Healthy. And also check out the website, www.blackandhealthy.com, and subscribe to the newsletter. So in the case that you are in the area or close by, that you can be up to date on the events that we will be having this year, which I'm super excited about. And if I haven't met you yet, I hope to meet you, and I hope that you have a wonderful time at the events to come.
Yes.
So, without further ado, thanks again, and we will see you later.
Bye.
Bye. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.